Okay, well, we're starting to do this again, a really quick check, but we were talking about the market and what it's doing today. All right, that's good enough. Want to say something, Jim?
Sure.
Okay.
The market is mostly flat, up just a penny. We watch it. It changes probably 400 or 500 times a day.
That's amazing. You know something? Looks like I'm getting pretty good sound, and I am on recording. I got a good picture, so I'm going to go with this.
Okay.
Okay. So, good morning.
Good morning.
Oh boy, the train in the background
We
here.
have competition.
We got some competition.
It's our heritage.
And it's actually going right by Jim Horan's office right now. And I am interviewing the president and CEO of, am I saying Horan right, or it should be Horan? Horan. I am interviewing Jim Horan, who is the president and CEO, if that's correct, of Horan Oil in Stoughton, Massachusetts, a family-owned business for many years. And I wanted to interview him today on the subject of leadership. And if you could be kind enough, Jim, to tell me a little bit about how your company might have started, I believe, with your grandfather, and had evolved over the years, and why it is successful.
Sure, I'd be happy to. We'll make it brief. My grandfather started the company back in 1936 with my dad. My dad was a freshman in high school, but they worked in the family business with my father and his brother. He had previously worked for a competitor in Stoughton, but they were happy to let him go and start his own company because there was room for everybody. It's when the majority of houses were converting from coal to oil, so there was a lot of work. There was a lot of changing out coal-fired systems to oil-fired systems. Then World War II came. My father went into the Air Force, became a pilot, flew over in Southeast Asia, New Guinea. My grandfather died. The company closed down. My dad came back in 1946, started up the company again, and also had an appliance store at the center of town, which he eventually sold to Town Spa. That's where Town Spa got its origination. And
for those that are listening to this recording, Town Spa is a local business in Stoughton, which actually I think had a name, Henry the Pizza King or something like that.
Henry the Pizza King.
Right on the tracks.
Correct.
Right. Go ahead.
And he bought the store and my father's liquor license. My dad had a liquor license that the town bestowed to him at no cost because he was fought in the military, a very patriotic time, and they had no use for it. So we sold the property and we purchased this property right here, where we're at today. So my father proceeded to have a lot of children, 8 of us, 5 brothers. We all worked in the business right from the time we were 10, 12 years old. And it's really the only job I've ever had.
So you grew up in it, Jim?
Yeah, I grew up in it.
So 10, 12 years. So what did you do when you first started?
My first job was collecting money from our customers that would come in to pay. I had to figure out what a half-cent discount was on a gallon of oil. When oil was about 15 cents a gallon.
Oh my gosh, it's quite a long time.
It was fun. It was very personable, and I had to learn to be polite, count money, and appreciate their business, say pleasantries to them, wish them Merry Christmas, for example, this time of year. It was very nice. Tried to pick up a few words of Portuguese, Stoughton had a lot of Portuguese in it, and it was a good experience. It was shortly after that, we would go out on the oil trucks with older brothers and pull the hose, which was a great experience. It was hard work. Clothing allowance was non-existent, so it was
cold.
It was freezing. Your feet would be wet pretty quick, and you'd spend the whole day in the truck. And my father was a firm believer in work hard, and he needed us. It was a shoestring business. There was a lot of oil companies in the area then, and it was more about working hard than working smart.
Competition. A lot of oil companies in the area. So at that time, how many trucks did you have on the road?
2.
2 trucks, and about to service how many customers?
We had about 450 customers.
Okay.
Which was a nice little company. We sold oil to a bunch of other oil dealers, We built our own inventory of storage here so that we could truck oil for other companies and not have to truck it for ourselves. So my dad was an entrepreneur from a young age, very quiet man, and knew that if he could make a little extra money, that he would live a better life. He had so many kids to support. And business really didn't grow until I spent a brief stint in the military, came out, and we purchased a competitor from the next town over, Sharon. And we essentially doubled in size from probably around 450 to 1,000 accounts. And that was a big deal. It created a lot of hard work. It happened to be during the first oil embargo, which was a very stressful time in the business.
In the 70s,
oil, yeah. It was 73. Oil doubled overnight. And it was all about contracts with domestic suppliers and foreign suppliers. And if you had a contract with Mobil Oil, you paid one price for oil. If you had a contract from importer, like Northeastern, you paid twice as much. The customers didn't really like this very much because our company, we had a Mobil contract. The company we bought out had a Northeast contract, so we had different prices. It was rather a stressful time to be in business, but we did manage it.
How old were you around this time?
At that time, I was about 20.
20 years old, working in Dad's business.
Yes.
What type of, I want to now get into the management style of Dad's business at the time. You're still learning the business, I'm assuming. How did Dad manage?
Dad managed the same way I manage today.
Okay.
I had 4 brothers, and if you wanted more responsibility, you took it. You just saw a need, and you took it over, and worked hard at it, and did well at it, and that became your responsibility. If you wanted more responsibility, you took it. We had a few apartment houses. We had to collect rents on Sundays. It was a 7-day-a-week job. It wasn't all bad, but it was hard work. And I just had to focus. I took as much work as I could. And it worked out very well. It worked out well for me. It didn't take too long to find out some brothers worked harder than others, some were more focused than others, and they eventually held by the wayside. And I was the last one left standing. And in 1988, I was 36. I purchased all my family's interest and my dad's, and continued to grow the company to probably a little larger than it is today. But I didn't really want to do a lot of acquisitions because I didn't want to have to deal with banks. I could have grown to become a much larger company, but to be honest with you, I really have enjoyed working with the company that I have, the size that I have. And I still have that same management style today, where someone who works for me can evolve into a more significant position and become more important to me and make more money for me.
That's really interesting. Tell me a little bit about your leadership style.
My leadership style, I really try to bring the best I can from the people around me. And the smarter I work, the less I work. And my goal is to not have any responsibility. That's the ultimate goal, and it takes a long time to get there.
That's interesting. I've never heard it quite said that way, and I've done a lot of interviews on leadership over the years, but my goal is not to have any responsibility. Do you mean that literally, or?
Yeah, I mean that literally. I've done my best over the years to do as little as possible.
Well, a couple of things that I've learned about leadership over the years and teaching and as an organizational consultant was that leadership requires 2 things. Thing number 1 is trust, and thing number 2, with trust comes loyalty. You have to trust your employees to not have responsibility.
Yes.
And they have to be loyal to you to know that you can trust them. So no responsibility means what exactly on those 2 things?
Well, for example, having others work with our employees, assigning them tasks, monitoring them, motivating them. My job is really to be a cheerleader and a creative thinker and guidance. That's what I want to do. I want to mentor. I've made a good living, but honestly, to make a good living is just a collateral benefit of my job. I would do this job even if I was struggling to make ends meet. You have to want to do what you're doing, you have to be willing to do the sacrifice, and you have to be willing to live with anxiety. Yes.
It's funny because in talking to you, you seem to be a very, I don't want to say carefree, you do have cares, but you seem to be able to handle your stress levels quite well.
You don't start off that way. But it does help to know and go with the mindset that you are going to have problems. Things are going to go wrong, but you do have control of the situation to a reasonable extent. Be ready for setbacks. Be ready for problems that you don't expect. But just know that tomorrow's going to be a better day. And if a number of things go wrong at once, a number of things are going to go right at once. When you make a mistake, learn from it. Benefit from it. When your employees make a mistake, you want the same mindset. You want them to know it's okay to make a mistake. They won't learn if they're not allowed to make mistakes. So benefit from them. Education, as you know, is not cheap. And neither are mistakes in business. They're too expensive to make them more than once. So you try to learn from them. You diagnose, this is what went wrong. How could we have done this better? And what else has this mistake affected that we can prevent from happening over and over again?
Right. So that's why they put pencils on erasers. I mean, you can't get up unless you can fall down and not feel that you're down for the count, that you can get back up again. I guess that's kind of where the message is in your leadership style. So that goes along with, and I'm almost done here, Jim, but it goes along with the culture of the organization. It seems that people aren't afraid to say something lest you bite their head off. I mean, because it doesn't work. And if your employees fear you, then obviously they're not going to be as productive as they can be. So if you were to delineate the type of culture that you have in this organization, how might you describe it?
I would say I try to make it as easy to work here as possible. I try to know all the employees and some of their personal life. I don't want to hear their problems, but I want to be able to speak intelligently. I want to know their children's names so I can relate to them easier. If they have a problem, I want to know about it. Remember, I'm a cheerleader first. And all things come from happy employees. Happy employees, happy customers. And you probably would like to know the most important decision I've made in my business life. Is that true? I'll tell you.
Okay.
And you're young enough to have this affect you. Pick the right spouse. It is the most important decision in business you will make. A supportive spouse is going to carry you farther than any banker or any employee you're going to hire. They have to understand that you're going to be preoccupied, that there's going to be dinners missed, and that sometimes you're not going to really be listening to their concerns because you have that anxiety. Or you have a problem you have to work through. And a lot of times you have to sleep on it, and sometimes sleep isn't all that great. But be careful who you choose. Do not make a hasty decision because it's bad for business. Other than that, go for it. Don't be 50 years old and say, I wished I had. Failure is not bad. It's not bad. It doesn't mean you're a failure. It means your business did not work out well.
Do something
There's
else.
Nothing that says you can't do it again. Some of the greatest businessmen, including our leader, our president, no failure. Because then you have to find out where the envelope ends and learn from your experience. John, it's nice to talk to you today.
Nice talking to you too, Jim. Thank you so much for imparting these words of wisdom to my class, and I'll certainly have some very valuable feedback. Thanks again.
Okay.
It's been a pleasure.
Nice to talk to you, John.
Nice talking to you.
Have a pleasant day.
You too.
Bye.
Bye.